Path Radio, your number one online Islamic talk station.
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. Welcome to Straight Talk on Middle Path Radio. I am your host, Kuddus Ali. It seems that liberalism has failed to win over the Muslims. To discuss this, we have two regular guests in our studio today, Brother Khayrul Islam and Abdus Samad. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Welcome to the show.
It's good to see you.
Jazakallah khair.
I think this is the first show that we're doing together.
Barakallah fiqh.
Very good.
So, thank you for joining once again. A great majority of Muslims feel that they are privileged to live in Britain. Surely this is true, Brother Khayrul?
Privileged to live in Britain. Subhanallah. This is. You need to. What's the backdrop in asking this question? Really? Yeah. So everyone's privileged. Yeah. So why are we asking the Muslims privileged? Yeah. So why don't ask the Jews? They're privileged. Or why don't we say the whites are privileged? Yeah. You could talk about this. Why is it? There's a question behind this. There's a reason for asking this. Why is to put the Muslim in the back foot so that look, don't portray your deen. Yeah, don't talk about your ideas. Yeah, accept the ideas that we have. Yeah, because you're privileged to live here. But isn't that bullying tactic? Wouldn't you say that? Yeah, isn't that what happened to the great liberal idea of we're the great ideas that defeated all ideas, all ways of life. Yeah, why is there something to worry about in terms of Islam? Yeah, that the Muslim can't talk about their beliefs and can't discuss ideas with people.
One of the things I heard from a lot of people that during the last week, when after the show, after the program, was that they are going to discuss because Muslims are their view is that Muslims are one of the minority group that have problem with certain of their values, their beliefs, and this is why they wanted to find out exactly what Muslims really think. So it is essentially the Muslims who have a problem. Abdus Samad?
Yeah. First of all, I mean. What we saw in that program is basically, some figures and some statistics and some surveys that was conducted, and based on some of the figures, they were making certain conclusions and trying to portray or paint a picture of the community. Now, this type of surveys and conclusions are actually, first of all, completely false. And it's agenda driven, because if you actually look to see, if you actually study any community or any different groups of people, of course you expect them to have differences. You expect them to be not like the rest of the society, because that is the thing that distinguishes them. That is the thing that makes them a unique community, if you like. So what we're saying is that yes, Muslim community is a distinct community with certain views, and these views are from Islam, and this is why they're the Islamic community. So the question should be, do their views reflect their belief system? And if it does, then that's exactly what we expect. Why is it that this community is expected something different? Or why is it expected that this community reflects, maybe the other communities? Why should this community reflect exactly the same as other communities? Does that make sense? Because it's like I can't expect maybe go into North London, and there you'll find a very sort of like close-knit Jewish community. And we expect to see, Jewish traits, Jewish culture, Jewish viewpoints, and that community will be very distinctly Jewish. And the whole idea of a pluralistic society is that we understand and we accept people of differing views and different ideas, and that's the way things are, and we include everybody in that. But and this is why.
But
Yeah,
you haven't. My point. My question was in terms of privilege. A lot of Muslims in that program said they feel privileged because in this country you can get prayer facilities, you can get your halal meat. That was one of the points, isn't it? So they were saying, look, we provide these things, we accommodate. The establishment accommodates these things.
Why should these things be a privilege? These are basic, human requirements, and it should be afforded to anybody and everybody. If different people, so like other groups, like the Jewish community is offered synagogues and their prayer facilities. If the Christians are offered churches and their prayer facilities.
But they have integrated, you see, and the Muslims having difficulty in integrating.
So integrated to what?
Integrated to the values, the British values, the British values, the British way of life.
Okay, there is no such thing as British values, as far as I'm concerned. British doesn't have a value. People have values. People have ideas. People have a viewpoint in life. Now, there are people, and in Britain, not everybody is a liberalist. Not everybody sees things from a liberal perspective. Do you see? But what we do find is that the establishment has adopted a particular viewpoint, and it is fanatical about this particular viewpoint, and it is coercing every section of the society to adopt its views.
Thank you. Brother Khayrul, you wanted to say something?
What I was trying to raise is there's an agenda behind this question. In terms of privilege, the agenda is that it's not about whether we pray or whether we fast or whether we've integrated or not integrated. Because when you talk about integration, you have to ask, what do you mean by integration? Yeah? Do you mean that the Muslims here somehow, they scrounge from the...
what's your definition of integration for the benefit of our listeners? If you can maybe define what integration really means to you.
Well, if you look at it, if you say integration, if we say integration is participating in society, are the Muslims participating in society? Do the Muslims help their neighbors? Do the Muslims, go to education? Do they aspire to have their children, to go to universities and be community members? Do they get involved in local issues? And you find Muslims have similar aspiration as the wider society in this country, because this is the nature of humans. Yeah, the only thing that's different, if you like, which other communities may not have, is Muslims have a viewpoint about even society in terms of where the liberals find a bit of a problematic.
Then why does Mr. David Cameron has a problem with some Muslims? He says that they're minorities and they don't reflect the views of the majority of the Muslims who are peace-loving and they have integrated. What does he mean by that?
He has a problem with all Muslims, and only just yesterday or the day before, we found that he's even talked about certain people who advocate and actively engage in society, and they talk about political participation and all the rest of it, and he's related, he's stated that these people are terrorist sympathizers, they are supporters of ISIS, right? And look how he's talking about even the opposition. He's talking about Corbyn. He's stated in the past that even Corbyn is a terrorist sympathizer. So if Corbyn is a terrorist sympathizer, according to Cameron, then what chance do any Muslim have in this society? To sort of like.
I think the problem isn't. It's really the Islamic beliefs. Yeah, this is where the problem is. What the agenda is between Quilliam and what Trevor Philips. What the program. If you have a look at it, you can destroy the figures that he's talking about. Is very, very easy, and it's really tabloid journalism here. Yeah, one of the news report I was reading, he was saying, for example, he was comparing it to the wider society. That 1% of the wider society would condone terrorism, terrorist activities, whereas 4% of the Muslim community, and he equated that to 100,000. And that 1%, how would you equate that the wider society? If you equate the 1%, in terms of condoning terrorism, you're actually saying from the wider society that 640,000 people would condone.
So are you
terrorism.
saying then?
So
are you saying that
there's
some flaws in the statistics gathering, because he used a very professional and a reputable company to gather statistics.
Using the same method of his arriving at the conclusion that he has, and this is what Brother Khayrul is saying, that what he's saying is that there's 4% of Muslims in contrast with only just 1% of non-Muslims. Now, if you're gonna say that this 4% equals to 100,000 Muslims that condone terrorism, then that 1% of non-Muslims equates to 640,000 plus non-Muslims who are condoning terrorism. Do you see? So is that correct? I mean, why would Trevor Philips also like to highlight that and say there's 640,000 non-Muslims in our society that condone terrorism? Would he say that, and would he be able to get away with that?
One of the other things he was trying to explore was about the views Muslim had in relation to homosexuality. So only 52% of British Muslims think that homosexuality should be illegal. What views do the rest of the 48% really have? I mean, how did he really gather that?
No, that's fine. I mean, the thing is, it's worrying. If 48% of Muslims actually think, homosexuality, there's no problem with homosexuality. Islam has a problem with homosexuality, whether we like it or not. But before that, the question is, what is it that the values that? Why is it these values are being attacked? Because these values are not only by the Muslims. I mean, if you go to the Catholic, Christian, if you do a survey of the Catholic Christians, or the Jews, the Orthodox Jews, you will find exactly similar beliefs. You'll find similar figures. So what is it? The Muslims. So what the thing is, in relation to homosexuality, are Muslims trying to now enforce the value that they carry on this in society? In fact, if you look at the relationship, how Islam views relationship, it only views one sexual relationship to be accurate, which is between a husband and a wife, to have a marriage, and that's it. So in this society, if you ask the Muslims, should boyfriend girlfriend be illegal? Should promiscuity, relationship outside marriage be illegal? You probably find similar figures. So why is he taking a certain issue and conflating it? You just there's something wrong here.
To that? I mean,
that's right. I mean, I suspect like the way that these questions were presented, and the sort of answers that came across, I suspect there's some fraudulent sort of approach had been taken by Trevor Philips to come to these sort of conclusions. I mean, what I would expect, and here's the answer, what I would expect if this question was presented to a Muslim, is homosexuality a crime in Islam? I suspect maybe 99.9% of the Muslims would say yes, it's a crime according to Islam. Now, if the question was then, should we ban it? Should we make it illegal in the UK? Really, it's up to the state. It's up to the people what they want to do here in this society. And I don't see Muslims going out there bashing homosexuals or lesbians or creating an issue or problem. I don't see that. So if none of this the issues exist in the society, then why are we even discussing these things? And why is it that people are not free in this so-called free society to have their views, have their opinions? Do you see it? Then so the real question is the West's inability to be inclusive. This is actually where the real issue is. And the more they attack Islam, because sometimes we think, it's another attack on Islam, and this is what you get in terms of a lot of response. And my thing is, I think we should stop responding like this. I think we should actually now start questioning the West's inability or secularism or liberalism's inability to be inclusive. And because that has been the case, actually, if you look historically, that has been the case. There's always been a group of people that have been
Can you give examples of
profiled,
for the benefit
who
of the
have been
listeners?
who have been targeted, who have been vilified, who have been victimized, and who have been abused.
Who have they been? Can you
And well,
Khayrul, brother Khayrul?
You know, just going back to this discussion about why is it being raised, you know, these ideas of homosexuality or really sexual promiscuity and so on. It's really, you see, the Muslim, we want to, within our life, purpose of life is to worship Allah Ta'ala. This is the purpose. Yeah. And what Trevor Philips wants us to do is to follow our desires. Yeah, worship our own nafs, our own selves. Yeah, and this is and we have to look at where that leads. Yeah, we will. If David Cameron talked about broken Britain. Before that, you had John Major talking about back to basics. What are these back to basics values that they're talking about? Isn't that those values that the Muslims carry? Yeah, the Muslims hold these kind of values. Yeah, about family. Yeah, about the community, about supporting the poor, about supporting the elderly. Where he wants to take us is a broken Britain, a Britain where people are not sure about their relationships. Yeah, people, even if you can take it further, yeah, those who only follow the desires, like the bankers who created, 2008 bank crash. As a result, huge number of people are suffering. So this kind of society that he wants to take us to.
Exactly.
Yeah?
I mean, he's willing to sacrifice the disabled for the bankers. You see, so billions of pounds is taken out from helping the poorest, the weakest, the most needy of the society. And that has been slashed to compensate and facilitate the corporations. And this is the sort of society.
My question was on homosexuality. Yeah. Throughout the week, I've been listening to a lot of Muslims discussing about this, and what they have said is that, look, this is a out of context question in middle of nowhere that he just raised and wanted to. This is a personal matter. Now, in terms of the views, whether it's legal or illegal in a society such as British society, I mean, how is it really relevant to the people who are asked this question? Because this is a private individual personal matter, isn't it?
That's right. I mean, the whole thing is just to try and paint the Muslims. The whole. If you look at whole of the questions that he's done, what Muslims really think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just from the question. So your neighbor, and he's really really nice to you. Yeah, but he's actually got bad ideas in his head. He's a bad guy. You see. Yeah. So this is the whole portrayal of that. Like what Brother Samad was saying earlier. Really, the Muslims don't give a damn if their neighbor is a gay or lesbian or whatever. Yeah. What people do behind their private properties.
But would you still help a homosexual? Because that was another thing. One of the Muslims,
of course, they're still
to qualify it.
Of course, I think one of the
if
brothers
he was
said that.
Yeah, if he was ill, would you go and help him?
Brother Hamza on the actual show said those kind of things. But that wasn't the issue.
So are you against homosexuality then? Because a lot of our listeners might think these guys are.
First of all, I mean, those people that actually participated in that program from the Muslim community have rejected this whole program, and they've come across and they've said that this is all sort of like
cut and paste
job with an agenda, with an intention to really harm and damage the Muslim community. So there goes the credibility of Trevor Philips. Before that, Trevor Philips, he's been rejected by his own community, i.e. the black community, because he's also gone against his own community
by doing what
in the past, where he's.
He was the chairman of Race and Equality Commission.
Yeah, he may have been, but he's the black community have also rejected some of his investigations and journalism, and so therefore, in truth, he lacks a lot of credibility. Yeah, right. I mean, that's the first thing. I mean, but I think we need to go back a little bit. Yeah, we need to go back a little bit. The situation of the Muslim community here. First of all, like
I've got a question for you. There was
this belief, if you like, that somehow this liberal, viewpoint to life, with freedom and secularism and democracy and all the rest of it, what will do, it becomes a melting pot, and people that live and participate in this society will eventually adopt and see the beauty of it, and somehow they will melt. From there, there's been a generation where this multiculturalism was really, put forward, and everybody was celebrating the diversity and the differences and so on. And some naive Muslims at that point, they did feel that, hold on a minute, yes, it is accommodating, it is fantastic, and we're loving it here. You know, it's nice. You know, they love us and we love, you know, what they're offering to us and so on. But the fact remains that they still had a very sort of like sinister objective while there was this era of multiculturalism, because they really hoped and believed that the Muslims will slowly, you know, become fully integrated and adopt un-Islamic values and be like us. But
Samad,
when that failed, and Trevor Philips was very much, you know, a person who advocated such views. But now he's done a U-turn, complete U-turn, and now this is muscular liberalism.
Yes. Brother Khayrul,
yeah, just coming back
I've
to
got a question for please carry.
Brothers Samad was saying about you know, the fact that they try to, you know, change the Muslims. I mean, what is it about the Muslims that is a problem? Is there a problem with the wider society, with the way the Muslims are and the values that Muslims express? I would say no, because aspirations are exactly similar. The problem is those elites, yeah, who have a design to suppress and oppress people, not only in this country but all over the world. Yeah, whether it's through the draconian laws, whether it's through, you know, keep people occupied while they go ahead and you know, steal people's resources. And,
but the concern of the listeners, Bob and Dave, for example,
yes,
is that whatever they hear in the media, how can they completely rule out and not believe and dismiss that?
Yes. So you now the question is, why is this kind of program done? Look. Only a few weeks ago, there was a NUT conference. In that conference, the whole issue of prevent was discussed. Yeah, and over 90% of the people totally rejected this legislation.
Were they Muslims?
No, they weren't Muslims. They were NUT people. Now, if you think, yeah, everyone, whether Muslim or non-Muslims, they can see how there's two standards, a double standard, a second-class citizen, a third-class citizen for the Muslims, yeah, and how they're being treated, and how it's so unfair to the young Muslims, yeah, that, you know, they can't bear this. As a result of that, they raise these kind of things in these conferences. So it's natural that, you know, the government. I mean, what Trevor Philips came out with exactly the same line as Theresa May and David Cameron before have said. So it's government line. It's nothing new. It's government line. I'm not quite finished. Okay. Let me just quickly finish my point.
A couple of texts.
Yeah,
just to remind the listeners that you can text or call in on 074 77 080 248. Sorry, carry on.
So it's government line. So it's natural. What the government is now trying to do is trying to tell the people, look, you know, it's not how you seem. That's the point. It's not how you see the Muslims. They seem nice. They seem good. And they had really, really good on the show. They had, you know, one brother, he was selling, you know, fruits, and you had another brother
comedian.
Else. Yeah, you know, you see the nice face, but, you know, the message was really what they think behind your backs. Yeah, these people, they've got something agenda. Yeah, and that's why we need to have things like prevent, and we need to do this, and we need to do that. Yeah, we need to have special laws for this group of people. You see, and this is the same thing.
Like they had special laws for the Jews, like they had special laws for the blacks, the Catholics, the Native Indians, the Aborigines, the communists, the trade unions, the suffragettes. This is the point. They have always, you know. So this is what it is.
So when you say they, just to for the benefit of our listeners, Bob and Dave, they have nothing to worry about from these programs, do they? I mean, in terms of
they have everything to worry about, and I'll tell you what they have to worry about. They have to worry about those people who are, you know, spinning these lines out to feed them with a lot of nonsense, right, okay. And they are feeding these poison. They're feeding the mass with poison.
So they should treat every information with a pinch of salt.
Create animosity within the society itself in order for those elites to carry out their objectives and their mission. And this is what the common person in society, whether they be Muslim or non-Muslim, need to worry about. Because the fact remains here, you know, the people are actually suffering under this system. And it's a scapegoating by targeting the Muslim community and vilifying them and making these people look like the real enemies. It's a cover-up for their crimes behind the scene.
I've got a question for you. I've got a question for you in the text. My question to Brother Samad is: what is the common thread between Mr. Phillips and Dodgy Dave, who have recently attacked Muslim scholars of being ISIS supporter? I think it's in light of the yesterday's news about Suleiman Ghani and Sadiq Khan.
That's a very, very good point. As I was earlier, I was discussing with someone, and when we discuss with Muslims and we told them that, look, we need to hold on to our values, and that's what makes us strong, because we've got something to give to the society. The society is suffering. Yeah, society is under, if you just have to go out and see the homeless. Yeah, you didn't see so many homeless. Yeah, you can't go into Tesco's without somebody asking for some money. People are suffering. If you look at the the food banks, the rise of food banks, over 1 million food parcels delivered only within this year, and then today's statistics about sexual rapes is just staggering. The amount of just today has been revealed something like 29% increase in terms of number of rapes that's happening, underage sex and so on. So these people are suffering, and when we talk to the Muslims, we said to them that, look, we need to hold on to our values because we've got something to offer. Because our values, prevents these kind of things, saves the people, and this is what people need wherever they are. They need this kind of values. So some Muslims says, look, let's give some of it. Let's drop some of our values, and then what that will do is what will allow the liberals, liberals to accept us. Yeah, and people like Saeed Warsi, Siddiq Khan, and people like that, and even Suleiman Ghani, people like that, and you can see, even though you drop values, even though you drop certain values, you drop everything, literally, and become a very, very secular Muslim. Yeah. Even then, these liberalists don't want to accept you. Yeah. They attack you.
Jazakallah khair. I hope the listeners got his answer on the question Brother Khayrul answered. I've got another text. It says, Matt from Luton. He says, I think the Muslims have to make the religion modern for modern times. What do you have to say, Abdus Samad?
Well, modern for modern times. Islam is modern. Islam is always modern. And we believe very strongly that Islam is capable of addressing many issues that the society
in the 21st century. Can it deal
with solve problems? We believe this is a religion, this is a deen, a way of life from the Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He has absolute knowledge of whatever age, whatever situation, whatever time we live in or we exist. And we are very confident that Islam is able to deliver a solution which the liberal secular culture is actually failing. And some of the issues that Brother Khayrul has raised and explained, that the leading nations of the world are failing within their own borders to address human problems. We find that elites are extracting huge sums of money from the society and slashing any benefits or any security for even the disabled. And this is the sort of system that we're living in. And the alternative, what we find is that, there is an alternative that is commonly understood and perceived in the West, which is socialism or, some type of communism or something. But that has failed. That we have seen that has failed as well. And Islam is definitely capable of bringing a solution to the table. And this is what this Muslim community holds on to. And inshallah, we believe that this system, this civilization is going to make a comeback, and it will establish this deen, and it will be able to address all human problems. Exactly. And non-Muslims should not fear the return of Islam, because Islam does not come to take over their lives or destroy them, or Islam does not see them as the enemy. Rather, Islam has come to give them their rights, give them peace and security, and guarantee all of this for them.
Jazakallah khair.
What I would say to this question is really the whole Trevor Philips show is not about whether Islam is modern or Islam is from past, something that's ancient and archaic. Yeah, it's more about muzzling.
Matt is not the first person, by the way. There's a lot of people who say Islam needs to be modernized.
So, the whole thing is about muzzling Islam. Yeah, so that the Muslims shut up and put up. Yeah, this is why the whole discussion about privilege come in as well. Yeah, you're privileged. Yeah, you should shut up. Yeah, and put up. Yeah, and not portray your values. Yeah, the what we are saying. Yeah, is in the modern age. In the modern age. Yeah, we're all thinkers. Yeah, we all can decide what's good, what's bad. Yeah, Islam has something to offer in terms of how you solve the people's problems. Yeah, what happens is when an idea fails to convince the people of their way of doing things, yeah, then you have to put up and shut up. That's what's happened. Yeah, why have you failed? Is it because Islam, the ideas that Islam's portraying, is much more stronger? Yeah, that it can solve modern problems. Yeah, if you can solve modern problems, what are you talking about? Modern. This is modern. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yes.
If you can't solve modern problems, then people will see it and will shun it anyway. So what's the worry?
Jazakallah khair. I'm just going to read out, before I come to you, I'm just going to read out another text.
Okay,
I've got so many texts coming through. Well, one of the texts says, I think what it is that Mr. Phillips wants us to integrate into this society. He has questioned and insulted every aspect of Islam. It's as if indirectly he's saying everything's wrong with Islam, that we should leave Islam totally and it's unacceptable in this society. Abdus Samad.
Yeah, what I say about Trevor Philips, right, is that he has nothing to offer to this society. Quite simple as that. You know, like we briefly mentioned, like the slave industry, right? This is a part of your enlightenment. The Western Enlightenment has led to, you know, the world wars, the slave trade, you know, the wiping out of the native Indians, the Aborigines, and all the rest of it. Yeah, this is what it is. And Trevor Phillips, you know, he's saying this is, you know, we need to just fit into this, and this is enlightenment, and now, you know, Islam is the problem, and everything we have in the West is perfect and it's fine, and the Muslims need to adopt this. You know, this is nonsense. Yeah, you know, quite frankly. And the point I wanted to make is that if you see the Western colonial mission throughout the world, they've went into different parts of the world and they've colonized the people, they oppressed the people, they stole their resources, and they left them a culture which was then adopted by these people. And like if you look at the example of Japan, for example, they're very Western. Yes? But Japan was the victim of the West, right? The only place, or the only part of the world where the West, i.e., you know, the Western powers, went and they colonized the lands, and they were unable to actually change the people or make these people adopt their Western liberal way of life, is actually the Muslim world. And even to this day, we find that the Muslims hold on to their Islam despite the fact that their land had been ransacked and they have been occupied for decades on end, yeah? And this very same people, i.e. us, the Muslims here in the West, we still continue to hold on to Islam. Why? The reason is because even today, we feel that Islam, the views of Islam, the ideas of Islam, the values of Islam are far, far more superior than any other way of life, any other views, namely secularism or liberalism. Do you see? And this is why the debate actually needs to be had. The debate has to be based on the creed. And this is the debate that has been avoided very much by this smear campaign, you know, attacking a community, you know, throwing statistics, media, you know, portrayal of a community there's no debate, there's no discussion here. It's very one-sided. And this is where the problem is. And this is where I encourage the Muslim community to not go on the defensive. Trevor Phillips, you know, he's going to present this. We should expect this. But the problem lies with us when we are not taking this debate and discussion to the society, when we are not holding on to Islam, and we are not presenting this Islam to the wider society. And and really, I say we should just go out there and we should present Islam and let everybody hear what Islam is. And it doesn't matter what these news and politicians come out with. This community will remain upon Islam as it has done for generations.
Well,
Whether the
I
host
just
nation
want
likes
to
it or
add
not.
something here.
Brother Khayrul.
You know, people like Trevor Philips and David Cameron would have no problems with the Muslims, even with if they have these views about gays and lesbians, if they dropped the political ideas about Islam and became like the Christians, inside their church. They would not have a problem. The problem is Islam is a political system, and it's got ideas about how society should function as well, and it portrays those ideas. It's not imposing. It's portraying. I fear that also there may be some kind of idea that Islam, there is a fifth column trying to take over Britain. It's nothing like that. There's nothing there. What you see a Muslim is what you get. This is it. This is what Islam tells us: to be nice to your neighbors. To be participant in society. To do well.
And do Muslims participate? You were referring before.
That's right. You find if you a lot of the non-Muslims will find a lot of their GPs are Asians and most probably Muslim. A lot of the lawyers are Muslims. In terms of education, in terms of charity, these figures come out from Charity Commission in terms of how charitable the Muslims are. So these are the values.
The Muslims are the most charitable people within Britain. But they have a problem. They want to ban. They want to prevent Muslims from even doing charity. You see, they come down on charity organizations. This Charities Commission, and they put very strict laws and so on and so forth. Do you understand? So they have a problem with Islam and Muslims, even if the Muslims are doing good.
I've got a question for Brother Khayrul in the text from Abdul from Bo. He's saying the media is shaping the thoughts of the society against the Muslims. I fear my family. Is this a genuine fear or am I paranoid?
These are Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about these times. There will come a time when holding on to Islam would be like holding on to coal. We know about these ayahs. These hadiths and all that. And also when in ayah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, they will not be pleased with you. They will not be happy until you follow their way, their millah. Rank hatred is uttered from their mouths, but what their hearts conceal is far worse. So this is a part of the challenge the Muslims have, and I fear, because what the liberals, what these people would like to do is to curtail the Muslims. Don't say a word, hush and become like, just go about your business and your desires, don't talk about the oppressed. And if we're in that kind of situation, I fear for the world. The fear is this, that these liberalists, recently the figures are like over 1%, only 1% of the whole world, the people own more than 50% of the resources. This is the kind of situation it's gone to. You have, huge cash crops, huge warehouses being burnt, because they don't want to give it to the poor. The increase in poor, the exploitation of the Africans and so on. This is where you fear. So as Muslims, really, we've got the solution to these kind of problems, and we shouldn't shy away on that. And this is our responsibility. And this is, if we do that, then we have achieved what we want to do. Just because we have a big, we could leave that and we might have a big bank balance, but is that the purpose in life? So we need to take on that struggle, because that's the struggle Allah has given us, and that's the struggle that Allah has put us in, and we must take that challenge. And we shouldn't be fearful at all of this. We shouldn't be fearful with our families. We shouldn't be fearful ourselves or our community. And the only way we can survive this is if we are stronger with Islam. We can't survive it by leaving. Because like we saw, Siddiq Khan, seriously being attacked, and Sulaiman Ghani being attacked. It doesn't make sense. These are people who have compromised certain parts of Islam.
Yeah, unfortunately. So what would you want to add anything and advise Brother Abdul from Bo? Is there anything else, Abdus Samad?
Well, I can understand and appreciate the sense of fear. I mean, this is unfortunately what this whole media hysteria has created, and it's people like Trevor Philips are actually the cause, I would argue, behind pregnant women being kicked about in the buses and public transport. So this is the unfortunate reality, but I think it's a challenge, and we need to remain strong, and we need to remain confident with Islam. That is this is our utmost test, if you like. And so therefore, like I say, I can understand and appreciate, but at the same time, we don't have a choice. We can't give up on Islam. We must hold on to Islam, and we need to continue.
Jazakallah khair. I've got another interesting question from another listener. He's saying, do you think Mr. Cameron was right that multiculturalism can never thrive in UK? That's interesting. Brother Khayrul?
Multiculturalism
can never thrive in UK.
Thrive in UK. Yeah, if you put Islam into the mix, then exactly when they talked about multiculturalism is we'll run the world, we'll sort our banks out, we'll sort our systems out, where people just get on with their their life and they don't care about what's happening in terms of being oppression or stealing of the resources and so on. And here, when you put Islam in the mix, Islam actually does care about the poor, does care about that person who's being oppressed, does talk about where there's huge amount of the issues of social instability. If you look at in society, the marriage breakups. Recently we found out that Archbishop of Canterbury didn't know who his father was until very recently. You see,
that's quite sad, isn't
it? It talks about these kind of societies, and it tries to put forward ideas and solutions to how these problems can be solved. Broken family, how these can be solved.
It's ironic, actually. Cameron comes into power with the slogan of "Broken Britain" and he's here to fix it. But then now he's imposing the very same values that actually broke Britain in the first place upon the Muslims. He's insisting that the Muslims adopt these values. So I can't see how he's mended Britain at all. He's going from bad to worse.
One of the issues that was raised was like polygamy, or
I was just going to come to that, actually. This is an interesting one. Only 30, going back to Mr. Phillips' statistics, only 39% of those interviews say that they should obey their husband. Is this correct?
Yeah. So, like I was saying, he raised the issue of polygamy, or the women they have to obey their husband in Islam. Yeah. So how in this society, how can that fit? Yeah, these kind of things. How can that fit? But if you look at, let's just take polygamy. Yeah. In this society, you can have mistresses. Hundreds of mistresses, hundreds of girlfriends.
Can I just say one point? Sorry. Would it be correct then, from that? Would it be correct to then say, Britain advocate the liberalists advocate that the wives should be disobedient to their husband? That's from that. If I were to conclude that, just from that statement, you can see there's a distortion going on, isn't it? Does that make sense? Yeah, and that's the sort of conclusions, if you like, that to sensationalize this whole situation. Trevor Philips has come up with these sort of things. Do you see?
Yeah, you can go back to your point. Sorry about that.
Yes. If I get back to my point, which
okay, I've got another staggering.
Sorry, I cut you off. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Samad.
A staggering 35% of Muslim men agree that polygamy should be practiced.
Now I have to get back to my point. Now I've got my point.
Polygamy,
yeah. So we're talking about relationship between men and women. Yeah. So it's acceptable. The Muslims, they should have 3 or 4 girlfriends. That's fine. Yeah, there's no problem with that. They should have relationship outside marriage. All of those things, no problem with that. Once you say nikah, you married someone. Yeah, you have another marriage. Yeah, that's the problem. You see, now, why? Because it's really, you just follow the desire, whereas Islam, talks about, if you have a relationship with someone, then you have responsibilities as well. As soon as you have nikah, then you have responsibilities. You see, yeah.
Yeah, but the point is, that's a question that they're not answering, isn't it? That's the question that they're failing to explain. So the liberal culture has actually failed to explain. We shouldn't have to give answers to that. The liberalists should come forward and explain why it is acceptable to have mistresses, all right, after having a wife, to have mistresses, and then not be allowed to have a second wife or a third wife. Can they explain? I mean, I think, you know, when we try to explain that, I think there's a problem because, you know, it's just we don't know.
But the interesting point is that 65% of people don't believe, Muslims who were interviewed don't believe in polygamy. That's interesting, Brother Khayrul. I mean, why do you think that is the case? Were they afraid? Were they under duress or coercion to say yes?
No, we don't know the exact question that was asked. You see, I mean, I think Brother Samad raised earlier with one of the questions. We don't know exactly what the question is and how it was asked.
How it was asked.
So, I mean, it might be the case, and most people, I mean, if they get on with one wife. I mean, nobody's, you know, in the general situation of the Muslims in this country, they don't have more than one wife. So I don't know. I mean, why is this an issue? It's not an issue in this country. I can't see this as being an issue. Whether also the issue of husband and wife, you know, obedient to the husband, I can't see that as an issue as well. Most of the people here are fairly you know, modern. I see, you know, Muslim women at work. I see Muslim men at work. Yeah, this is happening, and we know in Islam it says the men and women are garments for each other. Yeah, obviously there's the issue of, you know, if there's a problem, yeah, where two people can have a problem, yeah, two people can stand on two sides, and I'm having this, and you're having that.
You know, Islam says yes, the wife should be obedient to the husband.
Well, I was going to come to that.
Islam says the child has to be obedient to the parents. You know, so we can see that's it's very organized. There's no problem with that. We shouldn't have to shy away and somehow explain to sort of like, you know.
Well, let's explain it. Let's explain it for Bob and Bill, basically. Yeah, because you know, he's portrayed as, you know, this thing of, you know, this man religion, yeah, and the women are oppressed. So that's why they have, you know, suffragettes and people like that fighting for their rights.
Society, as they say.
And in Islam, because it doesn't give women rights. Yeah, of course, Islam gives women their rights. Islam sees them as different, and they have different roles. And even in the marriage that we're talking about, yeah, they are garments for each other, so they advise each other. But at the end of the day, you know, there's a clash. What happens if there's a clash? Yeah, they need to still function. If they don't, if you say, you know, so here, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put a certain degree in terms of the word, yeah, that, you know, okay, at the end of the day, yeah, the final say goes to the men, because it has to go to someone. Otherwise, you know, the final say goes to each other, and then you fight forever and you break up.
But there's just to come back to your point, there's 9,000 reported cases of honor killings amongst the Muslim Asian community. How do you respond to that?
Is it the Muslim community or the Sikh community? Because if I understand, it was the Sikh community that started off. I mean, you know, the Muslims here, they're not
in Muslim communities.
They're not without their problems. I mean, there are problems, yeah, and this might be. I'm not totally clued up with it, but I think I would say this is a problem. Yeah, if that's the case, it's a problem. Because
it's not because of Islam, though. It's probably because of the lack.
It's more cultural
Islam,
issues, isn't it? Yeah,
isn't it?
Because you have it with the Hindus and you have it with the Sikhs. It's usually the Indian subcontinent, isn't it? We're talking about, yeah. So this is something that I don't know. You can blame Islam for, yeah, because in Islam you cannot, even if it's your daughter, you cannot force her to marry someone. Yeah, you cannot force her to, you know, be in a certain way. Yeah, because it's in each individual are themselves. Yeah, you have to get their consent before marriage and so on.
Jazakallah khair. I've got a question for Abdus Samad. Many argue that the secular values that the West advocates are truly inclusive. Can you explain that, please?
Well, I mean, this is rhetoric. We need to put that to the test. Well, let's examine this.
Because if you look at that comedian in the program, he said, look, again, he's very interesting. He said he enjoys living here. He loves this country because it's very inclusive.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're going to test now. And we've highlighted some of the you know, issues that the Western civilization actually faced. And if you look at
this is now from a value point of view.
Let's look at US, all right, as an example. Let's look at the black people, all right. Have they been accepted up until this day? After decades of civil rights struggle, we find that black people are being lynched by white cops in the streets of America, all right. We find, if you look at the Jewish people in the past, how they have been vilified, how they have been targeted, and all the rest of it. You're looking at the Muslim community. They are now coerced. They are forced to abandon their values, their way of life, their ideas, their thoughts, and they must adopt a liberal, type of mentality and so on. So if that's what you call inclusion, then yeah, it is very inclusive. But that's not what I call inclusive. And this is why I say this is a civilizational failure. At the root of this Western civilization, you find bloodshed, chaos, discrimination, oppression, and nobody can deny that. These are the facts. Let's look at the facts. Let's look, how the West, after its enlightenment, how it progressed. It was chaos. It was full of bloodshed. It was full of tyranny, oppression, and it's the intolerance of the so-called tolerant society. And they've always been intolerant towards certain groups of people without fail.
Such as?
And we've listed, isn't it? They've been intolerant towards the Jews, the blacks, and now the Muslims, all sorts of people. So how is it inclusive? This is what I don't understand. If it was inclusive, then we should say that the establishment should welcome the Muslims with their diverse views and opinions. But they're not. They're clearly not.
Jazakallah khair, Brother Khayrul.
Yeah, what's happening is the Muslims are asked to adopt these beliefs that the West is portraying. Not the West, really. It's the liberal elite that aspires to, and part of the reason is because the Muslims have alternative views in relation to how the world is run and how to solve some of these problems. And you can't discuss this. That's what they're saying. You can't discuss this. You can't put forward any of these ideas.
As well, the thing is, which type of integration seems to be a discussion that is had very often. Is it multiculturalism? Is it the American dream? Or is it the muscular liberalism that should be at work to integrate the Muslim? This type of discussion, actually, there's a premise it's built upon, and which assumes that there's a problem with the Muslim, with the views that they hold. And for Muslims to engage in that type of discussion is very dangerous. There's no...
Brother Samad, want to just come back on that, muscular liberalism, because you raised it, and I know the time is going, If I could say
ahead.
something in relation to that. The whole program is designed to get the non-Muslims on the side so that they can introduce these draconian laws. So the Muslims, as they always had a bogeyman, like Brother Samad was saying. Whether it's the Jews or the blacks or the Aborigines or if you read some of the articles, this hasn't changed. And right now the Muslims are the bogeyman.
But still, it's a pluralist society, isn't it? They argue that we're a pluralist society. We allow a difference of an opinion. We accommodate.
But that's rhetoric. That's false.
That's not true. That's
they
exactly
allow demonstrations in Parliament, outside their houses of Parliament,
and that's inclusive. Is it?
War against Iraq, absolutely.
That makes it inclusive.
In Middle East, you couldn't do that. You couldn't have demonstrations. You couldn't vent your frustration.
The Middle East is not an ideal society that we're talking about. These societies, if you look at it, they have been created by these liberals who are behind in creation. And the only way to keep those societies from rebelling or changing is to put a draconian law on top of them. And this is what's happened. And that's why you can't do kind of things in the Middle East. But here, what they try to do is they try to have the people on their side. This is the idea, and this is a good idea.
You were touching on muscular liberalism.
So and again, they're trying to keep the people on their side. So it doesn't make sense to the average person in the street to suppress and oppress a certain group of people. So what you have to do is you have to create this nasty person, and then after that say, look, we need this kind of forced liberalism or forced we need to force them to these kind of ideas. Otherwise, these people, they're going to destroy our society. They're going to blow our they're terrorists. They're going to blow our places up. Yeah, that's why we need to come up with these really, really stringent policies, and we need to move away from this multiculturalism into muscular liberalism. Use the muscles, force them. These people, they don't understand. I used to say, these people, they're like animals, if you like. Yeah, they have to be beaten into submission rather than winning them over. They're not humans. Yeah, we can't have a proper discussion with them. Yeah, this is what exactly the discussion here.
Very briefly, if you could just touch upon, obviously we have a contrast here in terms of secular liberalism and inclusion. Very briefly, under Islamic rule or Islamic system, how would minorities be treated? Would they be treated the same way as we're here in this country or in other European countries?
Yeah, well, one thing for definite is that, Islam doesn't coerce anybody into any particular belief. And history is testimony to that. And we find that under Islam, Christian communities existed, Jewish communities existed, and they were allowed.
Will they be allowed to practice their
absolutely?
Their religion,
and they have done, and
sexuality.
And these communities existed, for centuries under Islamic rule without any coercion to convert to Islam or anything like that. So some of the rhetorics that the West presents, right, and this is why I say it's a civilizational failure, and we have shown under Islam the success of these ideas that when we say, we mean and we deliver. Unlike the West, it's just rhetoric. It's empty rhetoric. Because if you actually look at their track record, you will find that they've always vilified and targeted different sections of the society. And so, and this is, and under Islam, we have this whole concept of dhimmi, who are people that are protected under Islam, meaning that the Muslims are responsible for their protection of life and welfare and all the rest of it, yeah? While the non-Muslims are not responsible for the Muslims. Do you see? And that is the justice and mercy of Islam, And these people, the non-Muslims, they thrived under Islam. They were protected, they were looked after, they weren't discriminated against.
Yeah, I think what we can do, and I think the Muslims have, and Islam has, is the ability to bring the different diverse people into one society where they're not fighting each other, where they're not trying to kill each other. And the examples you can have, we had in history. For example, if you look at Muslim Spain was more pluralistic than any society that's been created in the modern world, and you had the Jews, Christians, and believers and unbelievers living together, under a system which was really the Islamic model here. And what is really respect for each other's values. In
you don't even have to go that far back.
This is the thing, and the Muslims. My final point would be, if we are getting close to that, is really, all of this is to curtail the Muslim. We know that. Yeah? The reason why he created this program is a government agenda. Don't talk. And here, the Muslims, we need to come out and express our beliefs, because
Jazakallah, we run out of time. Just very quickly, the final point from Abdus Samad.
Yes, I mean, I was just wanted to say that we don't even have to go that far back, even under the Ottoman. If you look at a place like Palestine, right, it had the diverse communities, and they lived in harmony, and there was no tension, unlike today.
Yes. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Inshallah, until next time, Jazakallah khair to brothers. Thank you for joining the show. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you. Good evening.
Middle Path Radio, your number one online Islamic talk station.